Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. Now I have a strange fascination with long-running movie franchises. Just, the kind of weirdness of keeping continuity between different actors and directors and how well it strayed from the original idea 10 movies in, things like that. And if you're a big fan of the channel, you know every Halloween I do a rundown of the worst to best horror franchises and some of the long-running horror franchises. And so I thought I'd take that idea and do some of my non-horror franchises I love. So I thought I'd start with one of my favorite long-running franchises. So now I bring you the worst to the best X-Men movies. Let's do it.
Number 10, X-Men Origins, Wolverine.
So somewhere there's another universe where this movie actually did well, and it would have spun off to have a X-Men Origins Magneto and an X-Men Origins Cyclops and maybe even more, although I don't know what they would have done with the Cyclops. They kind of explored his origins in this. But anyways, yes, this is everyone's most hated X-Men movie. And yeah, the effects are terrible, the storyline is awful, and it's just all sorts of weirdness and didn't work. But instead of focusing on the negatives, let's bring up a few of the positives. The montage of Wolverine throughout the wars was actually pretty fun, and I enjoyed that a lot. And let's face it, Ryan Reynolds playing Wade Wilson for the 2 minutes that he was in it was fantastic and would eventually evolve into Deadpool that we know and love. So that's always good. And I feel like this is actually a decent movie up until him getting his claws. Not perfect, but it had some good things going for it. But as soon as he gets his claws, this thing just flies right off the rails. And yeah, it's a pile of hot garbage. Definitely the worst X-Men movie.
Ooh, shiny.
Number 9, X-Men, The Last Stand.
Now, I actually don't hate this one as much as everyone else does. I thought it did some cool things. Killing the professor was very surprising. Seeing the actual war start up that Magneto's been promising since the first movie was pretty cool. Focusing on things like Kitty Pryde was really awesome, and I like what they did with Pyro. So there is some cool things going for it, but I'm not blind to its faults. Yes, having the Cure storyline mixed with the Dark Phoenix storyline and trying to mesh these together did not work at all, and it ended up screwing up both of them at the same time. Taking what they built up from the second movie and just not paying it off was really terrible. And yeah, I can see why this isn't a lot of people don't like it, and yeah, that's why it's lower on my list. I still can enjoy some certain things, and hey, my boy Madrix is in it. Of course, they misuse him, but, he's in it, so there's that. But, yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but I can understand that it's not very good.
The air is still, and the night has fallen. Does anyone question you must answer? Who will you stand with?
Number 8, for Wolverine.
So this movie's biggest flaw, I think, is that it's boring. I like that it continued off of the third movie, giving us some extra continuity in seeing what happened to Wolverine after what happened on Alcatraz Island. It was nice to see a good Wolverine movie after what happened to Wolverine Origins, but it's just boring, and there's the weird use of Madam Hydra and making the Silver Samurai a mech. and the weird, like, you can take Wolverine's power out of his bones, and it's got a lot of weird stuff with it. It's just boring. Like, really, it takes forever for things to get going, and it's just him farting around in, you know, small towns in Japan, and it's... I mean, I can get through it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, it's boring.
Number 7, X-Men, Apocalypse.
I can't help but feel if this movie came out in 2002 after the first movie, this would have blown our minds. But yeah, this didn't come out in the 2000s. This came out in 2016. And it's got the same feel and attitude of a 2000s comic movie, but our tastes and what we expect from comic movies have evolved, so I can understand why a lot of people didn't like this one. I do like some of the things. I like the look of Apocalypse. I like what they, the look of Psylocke, but it was a lot of misuse of characters, and doing this every decade build-up X-Men thing is starting to wear. First Class took place in the 60s, Days of Future Past is 70s, so this is the 80s. And the fact that, none of these people have aged 20 years since we've seen them doesn't quite fit. And it was just Apocalypse tearing down the world. So not a lot of interesting stuff done, but it could be a lot of fun. And if it did come out in the 2000s, it would have blown our mind. But, it didn't. And so that's kind of where it's in, just kind of in the middle. I can have some fun with it, but I can understand the pains of it.
Everything they built will fall, and from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one.
Number 6, X-Men.
Of course, you gotta respect the original. The amazing casting of Patrick Stewart as Professor X and James Marsden as Cyclops, and Hubert Jackman as Wolverine. It's just some solid things. Now, there's a weird storyline in my life with this movie. When it first came out, I actually really didn't like it at all. It changed all the stuff from the X-Men movie, or from the X-Men comics. They all had the leather suits. I didn't really care for it, but I eventually learned to love it for what it was and quite enjoy it. But now it's definitely showing its age, and it's very cheesy. Some weird one-liners. Some of the effects don't quite line up. It's just starting to be cheesy and starting to show its age. But it is integral not only in this, starting off this X-Men franchise, but of course, this was one of the main points of Marvel starting their cinematic universe. Of course, this isn't in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it inspired Marvel to start doing more with their properties in a movie sense. So you got to give it some respect in that fact. And, it can be good and just kind of taking me back to that early 2000s feel. But yeah, it has aged very poorly.
Number 5, X2, X-Men United.
So definitely one of the times that the sequel outdid the original. X2, X-Men United, outside of it having a terrible name, is still really good, and I even still enjoy it today. They took what the original did and made it bigger and better. Adding in Nightcrawler was really awesome. Hinting at things of Wolverine's past, hinting at the Dark Phoenix stuff within Jean Grey. It was all really awesome and could have built up to something really cool. If the creators and writers of X-Men Origins watched this one before writing Origins, maybe Origins wouldn't have been as terrible. Same with, the fact that Brett Ratner trashed all the ideas when he did X-Men 3 that this one built up. But this one had some good things going for it. You know, teaming up with with Magneto was really cool, and I thought it was just a great evolution of these characters and did some really cool stuff with it. I really enjoy this one a lot, and it's a lot of fun.
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble.
Number 4, X-Men, Days of Future Past.
So the movie that finally tied together the prequel franchise and the original franchise, Days of Future Past, you know, brings together the stuff from First Class and the original trilogy to kind of make a final timeline. Of course, the X-Men timeline is just all over the goddamn place. But this one tried to tie it together as much as it could. I really like seeing Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy get together. You can see them face to face, both being Professor X. That was really cool. Some of the stuff they did in the 70s was really awesome. Of course, this had the awesome Quicksilver moment, and all the stuff in the future is crazy awesome. Again, this is a really good movie and just done really well. And I do suggest, if you get a chance, watch the Rogue cut, where they add in a subplot of Rogue needing to be rescued from a prison, as well as extended scenes, things like that. But it is really cool by itself, but also the Rogue cut adds even more to it, making it even more awesome. I really love this movie, and it's just one of those movies that gives you a lot of goosebumps, and it's just really fantastic.
Please. We need you to hope again.
Number 3, X-Men, First Class.
The movie that brought X-Men back, and is the reason why we have all the X-Men movies we have today. Because of course, after The Last Stand and X-Men Origins didn't do very well and were critically panned, they didn't really want to do much with the X-Men franchise. But this one came back and did a great job. And Matthew Vaughn is so great at directing. And of course, he directed Kingsman and Kick-Ass. And he lends his talents to this and really kicked the franchise back into gear again. Of course, me being a continuity nerd, there is definitely some things that don't line up. The fact that they had to go back to the 60s and reboot some of the things. But outside of that, it's still really good. The acting done in it is so well. The characters are so fun. The storyline is really intriguing and really interesting. I had a lot of fun with it. I love the 60s aesthetic. I love, teaming up and just some really cool things done with this movie. I really, really love it, and it is absolutely the best X-Men team movie we have gotten so far.
Listen to me very carefully, my friend. Killing will not bring you peace. Peace was never an option.
Number 2, Logan.
This movie is fairly new, but it definitely deserves to be at the top. This movie had so many great moments to it, and it was just, the bow on the package of Wolverine for Hubert Jackman. Just getting to put his swan song on this character who he's played for, 16 years was really awesome. And Fox basically giving them free reign to do whatever they wanted really paid off, and it was just a really fantastic movie with some great emotional moments. Patrick Stewart is so awesome in this. X-23 is so cool. They just do some really cool things, and I really love this movie a lot. It really held up to my expectations and just had all the feels, and is just such a well-made, awesome movie.
Find a way. Logan, you still have time.
Number 1, Deadpool.
Of Of course, a lot of what I said about Logan can be transferred to this movie. The casting is so fantastic. Fox letting them do whatever they want really paid off. But Logan couldn't have happened without Deadpool. If Deadpool didn't do well, Logan would have been more hamstrung and maybe not even happened. So the fact that Deadpool came out of nowhere, low budget, and still was so fantastic was amazing. And it's just a great show of what fan love can do. Because this movie was in development hell for a very, very long time. Until somebody leaked the little test footage and all of a sudden everyone's like, no, we want this movie. Fox, make this movie. The fans really came out and told, Fox, we want this movie. And so they're like, fine, we'll just do it. Give them the lowest budget possible, but just do it. And the fact that it had people behind it that loved these characters and wanted to do them justice is what really made this movie great. It was a lot of love and care. It wasn't a paycheck for these people. It was something they wanted to see come to fruition, and you can really see that on the screen. It's a lot of fun and just a solid, well-made comedy with some fantastic love to my X-Men. And yes, this is an X-Men movie. I've had a lot of people say it's its own thing, but no, this is in the same continuity as the other X-Men movies. Anyways, so I can't wait to see what they do with Deadpool 2 later this year. But yes, right now, this is my favorite X-Men movie of all time.
You gonna do a superhero landing? Wait for it! Woo! Superhero landing!
Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Totally impractical, they all do it.
Of course, this year we're going to get 3 new X-Men movies. Okay, this year we're going to get 2 new X-Men movies. So I can't wait to see what happens with those. And of course, I have to mention, Disney bought out Fox Entertainment. So what's going to happen with this franchise in the future is very undetermined at this moment. If I were to place my bets right now, I would say a full reboot. They're going to let the 3 movies they have already coming up kind of come out while they're dealing with litigation issues and making sure everything ties together. But once, Marvel actually puts this into the MCU, I'm guaranteeing it's going to be a brand new casting, brand new franchise, just rebooted from scratch like they did with Spider-Man. It would be cool to see, Hugh Jackman in, the MCU, but then you'd have to bring in all the goofy stuff that happened. And if it's just kind of good to start fresh. So that's what I would say is going to happen. I could be wrong, who knows? But I think that's what's going to happen. So what's your favorite X-Men movie? What's your least favorite X-Men movie? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up because I need some positive reinforcement in my life. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button because I'm supposed to say that. So I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.